This is the opening keynote that I'm about to deliver in Tartu during their Kultuurikompass, which is the annual seminar the city has been hosted to take stock on what they have achieved as European Capital of Culture, and that this year in 2025 is all focused about what happens next, how to look forward. I have been asked to discuss the bigger picture, and I have had the opportunity to observe the experience of Tartu since the very beginning, as I was the president of the jury that selected this city back in 2017. And the other areas that I cover, as most of you know, is I specialize on capturing the impact and tracing the legacy of large-scale interventions, both European capitals of culture, but also Olympic Games. And I have had the chance to do so over 26 years. So there is quite a mountain of data that we can compare and assess as a reference. But what matters to me is the long-term view. And that's why for Tartu, really, this is just the beginning. The kinds of cities that I have traced in more detail have allowed me to observe developments over 10 to 20 years. It's the case of Glasgow, for instance, in the 1990s. It was the very first city that argued that the European Capital of Culture program is in fact an opportunity for transformation. It should not just be about celebrating the European capitals we already know, but about discovering and re-energizing the heritage and the prospect of places that might have suffered, that might have been left behind. And in the case of Glasgow, the most interesting transformation actually started to happen 10 to 20 years later. The same has happened with Liverpool in 2008, all the work and transformations that we have seen in recent years. Barcelona, another pioneer of cultural regeneration that hosted the Games in 1992, and many others. So, what is the topic today? I have been asked 3 questions, and I will be addressing them through 3 provocations, explorations of tensions, plus look into a very, well, hopefully it's a happy ending, and it's the chance that we can look into the bigger picture. And here you have me on my last visit to Tartu with the mural of the cat that always knows how to fall on its feet, no? The art of survival that defines your project. So let's start with this combination of mega projects and their capacity for change. Your question was, what kind of changes can actually be generated through this type of initiative? In my work with the Center for Cultural Value, where I have been associate director, that was a cornerstone of our work, debating again the role of evaluation to capture change. And it's important that we come to terms with what this means. We tend to understand change as impact. We want the results, but to make sense of our impact and the impact of anything we do, we need to understand first what has been called theory of change, and I have also presented as a wheel of change. And here you have it. Change doesn't happen in a vacuum. To understand your impact, you need to understand the process that leads to those transformations, and especially you need to start by understanding where you come from and what your original goals are. So this was the idea. Change doesn't happen linearly either. So although here we have a line, what matters is to understand how it relates with each other. It's more of a circle than a line, but it starts with your ambition, with the change that you seek, your baseline. You have then your investment, which are your resources. What do you count on in terms of budgets, in terms of expertise, what people are there for you? The activities, which is what you do, your program, your outputs, which is, what you will produce, what comes out of those activities, and then the notion of outcome, that is that difference. The outcome is the difference you create that then results in an impact, the final benefit and transformation. So when we have these ideas and we can think about your goals that then translate into impacts, this is the range that is most dominant. It's easy, I find it that it has made a difference to my career and to the cities I work with to organize them thematically in blocks, although many of them are transferable. But yes, the economic sphere, the social sphere, the urban, especially in terms of physical city changes, the broader cultural sphere, and governance, a very important dimension of what all of these events are about. And we tend to aspire, when we talk about change, at something a bit numerical, no? A growth, more investment, more visitors, more skills and capacities, more diversity, more well-being, more infrastructure of public space. With the cultural, we tend to be a bit the approach to evaluation and capture of indicators tends to focus on the number of activities, numbers of shows, the artists, a bit of discussion on quality, and then with governance, yes, whether you develop a strategy, how sustainable you can be, whether actually evaluation becomes a modus operandi. But we tend then to translate this into numbers, and it's here where we have the number soup. I mean, this is a slide you will not be able to see. The whole point of it is you have 3 types of events I have assessed, both on the Olympic front with the Cultural Olympiad, a European Capital of Culture, and several music festivals. And these are the numbers that come to us. In terms of budgets, we can deal from 30, 60 million to 120, 130 million euros, million pounds. How does this translate in engagement? Well, some cities will claim 45,000 volunteers. No? This was the Olympics nationally. Some others 1,000. Some will claim they have 40,000 artists involved. What does that mean? You know, the numbers alone do not tell us much. So we need to get into the meaning behind it all. And the question you wanted us to explore here is whether we can meaningfully measure the impact. How do we make sense of it? Well, this involves a good rethink around the questions that you ask, because really it's the questions that you ask that will determine the answers you get. And we go back to that theory of change. What is your point of departure? There are so many indicators, so many methodologies, and a fantastic range of evaluation reference out there. But often you have a clash between those in charge of your vision, your artistic director, no, and the team that produces the work and your program, and your evaluators. And you might have the most inspiring vision, but if you end up with a measure that is too narrow, you will end up with data and understandings of impact that are too limiting and will not allow you to tell the full story. So you need to revise that. You need to be able, with your evaluation teams, to engage on the notion of value and to invest in identifying the type of measure that is truly relevant to your project, and combine social sciences, combine humanities. Don't do it only with a tunnel vision. So yes, what are the right questions? What are the right methods? And get this as idea. Your challenge for all of you is how you link your vision to the right measures, is how you square the circle. Otherwise, again, you are operating in parallel. You might be criticized, you get all your controversies. Those that will say, what is it all for? Why does this cost 1 million? Why is the street being shut down? If you're not able to articulate value, no matter how many activities you produce, you might still fall short of the mark. So be reminded of the pressures you are under when you try to present value and justify the changes you make. what does the European Union want from you? What is a European capital of culture? Those are the questions you're all familiar with. No? 2 general goals, that is about celebrating the diversity and commonalities of European cultures, getting a sense of belonging for European citizens, and then it's all about making the case for culture as a tool for the long transformation of cities. And this translates in this. You will all be familiar with this table. I have colored it because colors I think help me see where the overarching themes are, but it's a lot of technical information that often feels very far removed from what a vision, your ultimate goal is. Work on the bottom line, identify the keywords, identify the essence. And once you start seeing all of these frameworks in clearer terms and keywords, you might be able to see how they fit with this original goal and ambition that you might have. And that's when the measures may become a bit more meaningful. So again, if we go back to Tartu, what do you want from becoming a European capital of culture? How does this compare to the European Union framework? It's useful to go back on how you make your case. This is an image from your bid book. You have your lady, it's a Southern Estonian woman in traditional attire, trying maybe to find, her way around on a MacBook. A combination, clashes, and the key concept for you that was the arts of survival. What do you mean by that goal? How are you going to prove now in 2025 that you have met that ambition and that this can still inform your near future? You translated that into this. Your meaning, your objective was that, about putting ecology before economy, going forward into the roots, and working with the smaller cities that can transform Europe. And then you bombarded us with indicators. I'm really keen to see the next presentation when you summarize your data. Back at the bid stage, you were probably not the most imaginative when it came to presenting your evaluation plan. It was a long list. We have lots of indicators. You don't need to see the detail, but you can see, the standard way of organization. How have you related this to the vision, to those key goals? This is what matters now, in order to ensure that any data, any numbers that result from this long list of measures provides also a meaning. So we are getting into a very interesting stage for evaluation of European capitals of culture. And what many cities try is to also digest all of their, at times, hundreds of indicators. I recommend don't have so many. Have at least 20 that are very, very strong, and the others are just complementary. But try to see what is that ultimate goal and contribution. It could be a happiness index, a culture climate index, curiosity index. This is all related to the vision of cities working alongside that. Because this data ultimately can sit just in a drawer. If it leads to transformation, you need more. And you need to understand the storytelling. The data alone will not do it, even if you visualize it. We have so many tools these days. How has this been done by some cities? The ones that have had the fortune of being observed and documented over a decade or two give you the right reference. Barcelona, this image, the swimmer jumping over a skyline with the Sagrada Familia, coming from one of the pools, the competition stage of the Olympics. This was a story very powerful of regeneration. The image, the iconic image works, the data behind it make it credible. Liverpool is another great example of that, a city that was on its knees back in the 70s and 80s. The famous Albert dock, all covered in cement, transformed into one of the most phenomenal stages out there, hosting Eurovision to great acclaim, a very successful European capital of culture as well. It has become probably one of the most beautiful, striking, iconic open-air stages in Europe for hosting major events in a city that now has quite well thought through cultural strategy. So the bigger picture is this. The bigger picture is that you need to be able to count on the power of your evidence. You need strong questions. You need a theory of change, a will of change. You need to understand and count on your sources. But you need a story as well. You need to be able that this data is understood as a point in time that will evolve over the next 5-10 years. So play with your stories, combine it with your data. The cities that have become most iconic for us are those that play with that best. Give us the right lens. So again, theory of change. Help us understand how to look into what you present us, and spend time defining value and making sure all your stakeholders understand it. So if you want more 30 years of ECoC data and also the stories around that, here you have links to my LinkedIn and to my website, where there is a very extensive archive. Thank you very much.